Welcome to Twin Peaks, The Gifted.
And The Damned.
My name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENTRIM. At Fit and Trim on Twitter. And with me, as always, the guy who's got more lives than Mr. C.
Hey.
It's Mork. Mork, how you doing?
I am doing super fine, Bubba. It's great to see you. And if anyone wants to yell or scream or give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, they can do that on Twitter at Extraordinary. That's extraordinary with the W in front of the final R.
Well, we're both doing great, even though it is Sunday night.
Yeah.
And we didn't get to see a new Twin Peaks The Return episode tonight. What in the world's going on?
Yeah, that is kind of a bummer. And I think that there's no better way to celebrate the Declaration of Independence and the birth of this small country between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans than by watching more Twin Peaks. So thanks for nothing, Showtime.
Our double L's, our loyal listeners, are helping us wait these 2 long, painful weeks to Twin Peaks Part 9 by giving us great, incredible feedback.
Yeah, this is a good
episode.
This
Part
is a good
8.
week actually to do this. Yeah, absolutely. This is perfect timing. Thank you, Showtime. This is good because there's a lot to talk about last week.
Now, Mork.
Yes, Bubba?
We are going to have one of our best podcasts ever because we're not providing the content.
Oh, yeah.
We have received
leaps and bounds better.
We have received so many wonderful bits of feedback on Twitter, on our Facebook page, facebook.com/double P podcast. That's the word double, the single letter P, the word podcast, plural, facebook.com/double P podcast, as well as our YouTube channel, that there was too much. There was literally too much feedback. I've tried to include something from everybody. There are a couple of people I wasn't able to find a great place to slot something in. But listeners, you're incredible. I love the fact sometimes you agree with us, sometimes you disagree with us, sometimes you disagree with us while agreeing with us.
Sure.
Sometimes you have ideas that we have not been smart enough to think about. This is wonderful. We don't have ads. We do it because we wanted to reach out and talk to wonderful Twin Peaks fans like you. And so you guys have knocked it out of the park. We're going to be talking about a lot of people's general thoughts about Part 8 that just happened a week ago. A lot of times we begin the podcast with iTunes reviews, and we've been very lucky that all of the iTunes reviews are incredibly positive. We're going to get to some of the feedback of people who weren't so happy with our podcast. Some people who really were upset with the rating, the fact that I gave Part 8 2 different ratings. We're going to talk about Ray versus Mr. C. We're going to have a million great ideas from you about the Woodsmen. We're also going to hear thoughts on The Horse is the White of the Eye. That wonderful speech, the Triple B.
Triple B?
The birthing Bob Blob. We're going to talk about The Man from Another Place. What does Gordon Cole know? Original series callbacks. And then, at the end of our last podcast, I was talking about Showtime. I got it to watch Twin Peaks The Return here in the United States. Listeners, you tell me, what do you like about Showtime? We got a lot of great responses about Showtime as a service, as well as people around the world, how they're watching it and how they intend to either keep the service or cut the service once Twin Peaks The Return ends. This is going to be really fun. We're very excited about it. And we're going to start it off with some feedback that I really think is your specialty, Mork. So why don't you take us away with our first bit of feedback?
Oh, okay. So this is, I think this might be one of the most important issues that's been come to the fore in Season 3. This comes from Necropolitan Comic at Necropolitan CMC.
On Twitter, yeah.
On Twitter. Anyone talk about how Jade's above Doug in their first scene? Looks a lot like Laura's kiss with Coop in Double R, the Red Room. Is Jade a spirit? I've thought a lot about Jade.
You've thought almost too much about Jade, Mork.
Well, look, I would say she's definitely got a spiritual side to her, and it's a nice echo. I don't know. I think that we're definitely in... let me back up.
Please.
Up until I was convinced that Dougie Coop was actually in our physical world, I thought maybe she could have been a spirit or a reflection of someone we might have known before, but not anymore. I think that now she is a strong, intelligent American woman, and I wish her a happy 4th of July.
Necropolitan Comic is a great Twin Peaks fan. They tweet out wonderful Twin Peaks thoughts. And the one thing about this that I love is I had never considered it. But if you actually look at our introduction, the very first shot of the actual manufactured Dougie Jones and Jade, they are kind of reenacting that, and maybe in a more adult content way than Cooper and Laura in the Red Room. But I love the fact that you're seeing those things.
Yeah, no, that it's a great thing to point out. And I'm glad they did, because I was pretty much just looking at Jade, so I may not have noticed the tableau.
So listeners, as soon as you watch Twin Peaks The Return Part 9, tweet out some thoughts to me, Bubba, at Fit and Trim, or on our Facebook page. Now, Mork, let's get to just a bunch of general thoughts about Part 8, that groundbreaking, psychedelic, and maybe it's not psychedelic, that mind-bending part that we got left on a cliffhanger on.
Right.
So many people had such strong thoughts about this. But one of the things that I have said often is that I want Twin Peaks The Gifted
And the Damned
to be a open, welcoming podcast for everybody's thoughts. So many people online, including some Twin Peaks fans I really like and admire, they were tweeting out things like, if you didn't like Part 8, you're not a real Twin Peaks fan. And that kind of purity test really upset me, because why is Twin Peaks The Return here? Yes, it's here because Mark Frost and David Lynch had a great idea and they wanted to do it. Yes, it's here because Showtime decided they wanted to fund these visionary artists of Mark Frost and David Lynch. But really, before any of those things could happen, it had to have this fan base that has stayed with Twin Peaks after all these years. The biggest Twin Peaks fan you can think of, Brad Dukes, who literally wrote the book on Twin Peaks entitled Reflections, which everybody refers to. Brad Dukes, after Part 8, he tweeted out, James and Evelyn episodes greater than Part 8 got a light. And I think that we need to give everybody the freedom to have their own perspective on this. Yeah. And so when I saw people say, boy, if you didn't like Part 8, you weren't really a Twin Peaks fan, even though Superfan Brad Dukes was saying, boy, I had a lot of problems with it. Let's not have purity tests. Let's have this open to everybody's thoughts. And I love that it feels like all of you listeners are so great, and you have a wide range of opinions, but hopefully everybody's willing to accept that everybody can have a different take, everybody can have a different opinion. So let's just burn through a bunch of them we got.
Absolutely. Definitely, Brad, hear you, appreciate it. I don't agree with that. Here's some others. Jeff T. Johnson, I give Part 8 a double L.
Double L?
Leafing Locust. Episode 8 is a double M.
Double M.
Mind Melter.
Woohoo. Jay Raymond, he gave us a note that says, I still don't know what I watched, but I know it was great to see the 9 Inch Nails.
That was pretty great. Darren Fenton, I loved it and will watch it again. This kind of expression should be encouraged.
Andrew Cox, I must admit, during episode 8, I was again, WTF? And then I began to appreciate the brilliance in that episode.
Neo-Luddite Visions. Episode 8 will weed out the weak from the strong. 10 double Bs.
Double Bs?
Big bombs. From me for this one, happy face.
P. Simple Gamer. Any episode of Twin Peaks that doesn't show a guy sweeping a floor for 5 minutes gets at least 430 stars from me. By the way, apparently there have been convenience stores in the United States of America since 1927. Ooh, love that fact.
Oh, happy Independence Day. Political sloth. This is never seen on television. We film lovers are seeing Lynch giving us pure art on Showtime. It's not a 6, 7, 8 out of 10 because it lacks narrative or whatever. It's abstraction on television. And you people are expecting a little bit more storyline. We'll look back on this as a historical moment for television, and we'll laugh at those reviewers who are asking for less weirdness and more story. Like every single show there is on television right now.
Stephanie on our Facebook page wanted us to know this double F.
Double F.
Fun fact. The song at the end of the episode was also in a movie Machen Amick was in, Stephen King's Sleepwalkers. Ooh, thank you, Stephanie.
Another double F.
Double F.
Fun fact, I was playing that song when I asked Natasha Hoffman out on a date.
When was this?
Anyway.
How long ago was this?
Not the point.
Oh, come on.
Graham at GraffC1, and that's GRAFFC1, only 30 minutes into tonight's episode and feels like Lynch's take on Koyaanisqatsi. Skip ahead. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I struggled to stay interested to the end. Managed to make it to the end. 4 EPMs out of 10.
EPMs?
Eyelid propping matchsticks.
Ooh, Graham was rough on part 8. Here's from Adam. Adam wrote, for those who think they'll never want to watch the episode again because of the abstraction, the various creepy/well-edited woodsman scenes throughout, and the giant scenes with that great soundtrack, I think those will bring many people back to view the episode as part of the whole. Of course, that's in addition to the awesome 2001-esque nuclear bomb scene. We don't know where the bug thing goes, so maybe that too. Adam loved the episode. He wrote, Lynch fits in so many moods and styles into the series.
Jamie Michelle, as far as the new episodes of Twin Peaks, I'm almost speechless. Did you know that Cooper was shot in episode 8 in the original show? This was also episode 8 in this new season.
Ooh.
Doppelkoop was shot in the same spot too. So, when you talk about mirroring, it's significant. That's a really awesome point.
Yeah, Jamie Michelle is a great fan. We love her.
That's a fantastic point. Thanks, Jamie. The gold orb turned into the moon. Moonchild. Cow jumped over the moon. Dido is interesting because she was an ancient Roman queen of Carthage, and it relates to prostitution of young girls. Uh-huh.
Ooh.
There's a little link to Wikipedia/Dido, D-I-D-O. Look it up.
Excellent. And one more just kind of general thought about Part 8. This is from Jared. He wrote, really wish you guys were loving this as much as I am. This might have been one of the best this season. But again, I'm even more of a Lynch fan than anything. The languid Lynch you speak of is his style for sure. I think it's the best way it separates him from the average show and movie. It's why we all want to discuss it and go over every minor detail. Again, I have ADHD, and thus really helps break up the monotony of it all and keeps me puzzled. I do agree with the Lynch theory of after revealing the mystery, at least I tend to lose interest unless there's even more mysteries like Twin Peaks does. The giant scene in Lady Dido's, for me, was a throwback to Busby Berkeley's style movies, which I felt was the best way of telling that story. Also, Albert calling out Gordon for being able to hear, that was in a previous part.
Yeah.
Jared writes, I was watching one of those ghost dude dumb shows, and they again were referring to the dead being able to control and manipulate electricity, and thought maybe that was where that theory goes as well. But again, it's okay not to agree on everything. One last question. Got a light. Oh, thank you, Jared. Oh,
there's a lot of snap quick takes, a lot of hot takes there.
Yeah, a lot of smart takes.
A lot of smart takes. Very cool.
Yeah.
Here's look, let's not beat around the bush. This is from Steve Owen. He doesn't like the podcast. Sadly, time to unsubscribe. If you gents aren't going to analyze the form, style, and content for what it is, but instead continue to impose your own traditionalist standards on work that is not trying to be traditional, then listening is just a waste of time. You want to respond, Bubba?
I did respond. This was a comment on YouTube, so I said, Steve, everybody has things they like, things they don't like. There are a lot of great Twin Peaks voices out there. I'm sure he could find one that he would enjoy. The snarky side of me thinks, he goes, boy, if you aren't going to analyze the Twin Peaks for what it is, and I think to myself, you don't seem to be judging our podcast for what it is. It's just you want something else too. But hey, that's fine. And so I'm sure there are a lot of great podcasts out there. And to be honest,
we're definitely not just reviewers. We're coming at this. We've been waiting at this, and you've been.
We're fans.
You're a member
from 27 years ago.
So it's kind of like, we're not. We're gonna talk about this. We're not going to talk about this objectively, and we hope everyone wants to share their opinions as well. And that doesn't mean we're going to be right all the time. We're going to be wrong most of the time.
Yeah. And speaking of wrong, a lot of people were very frustrated with the fact that I gave Twin Peaks,
the great Bubba,
Part 8, 2 different rankings. I gave it 1 as kind of like an experience, and that was 9 out of 10 because as an experience, it was incredible. But I said, as an episode of Twin Peaks, I said, boy, I don't know. And I gave it a 2 out of 10. And people hated the fact that I had this double rating. And so let's burn through some of these people. Because these people, everybody take me to task. I don't mind it. I love your thoughts, so let's get to them. Gray Pants, who's at Graybox1000. This was a response to something else I said. Gray Pants wrote, I think I liked Part 8 more as Twin Peaks than I would have if it had been a standalone film. And that's kind of one of the things I questioned as I was talking last week.
Just real quick, I want to comment on that briefly, and just the idea that if you didn't have any sort of hook into what we were watching, I think you would have liked it less. We're watching this stuff, we're trying to figure out, and we're somewhat aware of, especially if you've read Secret History, the Mark Frost book that came out that we talk about in the first few episodes of this podcast, that nuclear testing, aliens, Project Blue Book, all of those things were kind of let us grasp onto something. And if we didn't have those, I would have liked it less.
Oh, okay, good. Good point.
I would have liked it less, at least. But that's just me. Okay, Matthew Power says, love this podcast, but 2 double R's? Come on. This was the best episode of Twin Peaks yet. From pure art, we just got an hour of the most surreal television ever.
I hope I pronounced this correctly. Madra. They wrote, this week's Twin Peaks podcast have unfortunately failed to measure up to the task dished out by Lynch. Ugh.
Fair enough. That's at Y Madra. Also, if you want to reach out. Rock says, I don't get why you need 2 seemingly contrary criteria for rating this episode. To me, that just says you have strong preconceived notions about what TV should be, which I think is a shame, as this is a show that is pushing the boundaries of what TV can be. Really enjoyable podcast, though. I will tune again. All right. Well, thanks. Louise Forster says, I am in total agreement with the double rating this week. Oh, man, you made me say the one that agrees with you, Bubba. That is dirty pool. I am in total agreement with the double rating this week, as my initial reaction was, WTF, did I just watch? But I was mesmerized by it, too. I wish I hadn't read the Lynch recommendation that you sit as close as possible and listen through headphones. I had to move back quite quickly once the double E's excruciating explosions started.
Oh, well, thank you, Louise, for agreeing with me. Here's one. This is a great double L loyal listener, Hari Nair. She is wonderful, and she really took me to task. She sent in a great email, actually. She wrote, I got to take issue with your double ranking.
Good.
Basically, you're saying Part 8 is a great piece of art by ranking it so high, but it doesn't belong in Twin Peaks. Or more verbatim, as an episode of Twin Peaks, it is bad. I've heard variations on this a lot. Quote, this is a David Lynch show, it's not Twin Peaks, etc. My question is, who gets to define what Twin Peaks is? The double Fs?
Double F?
Finicky fan? Or maybe David Lynch and Mark Frost? I mean, who the hell are those two guys to define what belongs in Twin Peaks? Now, I'm not saying you have to like what they do, but at the very least, you should engage with it on their terms instead of yours. Here's the thing about this episode. It's really a miracle. This work of art could not exist if it weren't an episode of Twin Peaks.
That's a great call.
David Lynch would never have been given this kind of budget to do something like this in a feature film. David Lynch was able to ride the wave of a craze of reviving old franchises. But should Lynch and Frost be beholden to the same stipulation that fan fiction films? I'm sure we agree, of course not. But it seems you're saying something like Part 8 is good for something else, but not Twin Peaks. You're saying they should be finishing their story on terms that are not entirely their own. I'd be curious whose terms should supersede theirs. Showtime, yours? It's one thing if you simply do not like the episode. That's fine. But whatever Mark Frost and David Lynch create here, this is Twin Peaks, like it or not. BT dubs, sorry if this is harsh. I dig the podcast. Well, let me jump in and respond to
that. That was
this.
awesome. Thank you.
Let me say, I love this feedback. The first thing I kind of want to say is when she's talking about, well, on whose terms should supersede theirs. Mm-hmm. One thing I said before the return even came back is that sometimes other people's terms help. Like I described how I thought ABC self-imposed terms, meaning, okay, your episode has to be this long, there have to be breaks for commercials, how I believe that actually helped Lynch and Frost make the show kind of better. I kind of thought the fact that they had these imposed things that weren't their decision, they didn't decide, okay, we got to have this many commercials and the show has to be exactly this length. I thought that imposed restriction, for lack of a better word, would help.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And then I also wrote to her, and I just wanted to say that my 2 different rankings are based around 2 different ideas. The first off, and it's just very personal to me, and it goes back to 2001, Stanley Kubrick's groundbreaking masterpiece film.
What was it called?
2001.
Oh, thanks. Okay.
So I loved the experience of watching 2001. But one thing that I've found is since that initial viewing, if I rewatch it again, the same thrill isn't there as was on that initial viewing. In fact, when I rewatch it again, the film spoiler alert for 2001, it kind of has 4 sections. It has the evolutionary step from ape man to man, the journey to the moon and the monolith. It has this section that's a battle versus HAL 9000, and then the final section, Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite. When I watch it again, the only part I can really enjoy is the HAL 9000 section. Not that the others aren't great, but while I loved them on the initial thing, as a rewatch, it was kind of tough. And so I think I kind of mentioned this last week when I was reviewing Part 8, but that thought was actually going through my head about, boy, this is really great, but I'm not sure how much rewatchability it would have for me. And this is just my own personal thing. But then my other thing, when I talked about it was a bad episode of Twin Peaks, I didn't mean that, it shouldn't be a part of Twin Peaks. But I want to go back to where we were. Part 7 had just aired. From everything I saw online, now I don't read everything, but from what I saw online, Part 7, kind of everybody loved. Everybody was like, ooh, I really like Part 7. Part 7, one thing it did, it started building on the story beats that had already happened. And the story threads were coming together, and there was this real sense of narrative momentum. Okay, Dougie Coop just beat up Ice Pick. We had Mr. C broke out of jail. We had all these story elements that were kind of coming together and coalescing and building what I call narrative momentum. Part 8 begins, okay, Mr. C is getting out of prison with Ray. It's getting going. Ooh, there's this shootout. Oh, my God. Ray got the jump on Mr. C. Oh, now the Woodsmen come out and they're pulling out Bob. Oh, my goodness. And the story momentum, the narrative momentum is going. Stop. Here's 4 minutes of a Nine Inch Nails song. Mm-hmm. Okay, now we're back to Ray. Ray's talking to Jeffries. Okay, the story momentum's trying to build up again. Okay, Mr. C sits up. Okay, the story... Wait, stop. Now, let's jump back in time to 1945 and the bomb. And then let's jump here, and then let's jump here.
Right.
And so when I say it was a tough episode of Twin Peaks in some ways, in my opinion, what I'm saying is that this episode, in my opinion, and if you disagree, I love it, write to us, let us know. The episode, as great as it was, did kind of kill all that story momentum of all the other story beats. Now, you may have loved a 4-minute interlude with Nine Inch Nails and not felt like that crushed the narrative momentum. You may have loved all these sections like I did. But even as I loved the sections with the nuclear blast, with the birth of the Laura Ball, with the 1950s horror movie, it still felt like, hurry up, wait, stop. And so, listeners, I don't ask anybody to agree with me. That's completely fine. Everybody should have their own opinion. I'm just giving my thoughts. And so at the time, I wanted to give it 2 rankings. Maybe that was a cop-out. I've always mocked people who've given 2 rankings in the past, so feel free to mock me on Twitter at FitandTrim. That's FITTENTRN.
Shame. Shame.
We got such a weak bell here that I don't feel too much shame. So, listeners, tell me, I deserve shame. I'm not afraid of it.
Yeah, Bubba, you should be ashamed. No, this is some great. I actually have a thought that we'll get to when we start talking about Showtime that I want to bring up. Now, one of the questions that we had was when Ray and Mr. C have been busted out of prison by the warden,
right?
And they're driving along, and Ray goes out to take a leak. Mr. C checks the glove box. He finds a pistol. He opens it up. He sees that it's loaded. He walks out to follow Ray, and he pulls the trigger, and nothing happens. So we were, I'm not like a real gun guy.
I'm not a gun guy either. I thought, well, are they blanks? And you correctly pointed out, well, don't blanks make noise?
Make some kind of noise, but lion standing sent us a quick note, and no firing pin in the pistol.
Oh, now that would make a lot of sense. Because I'm not a gun guy, I don't even know what a firing pin is.
Yeah,
a firing pin is, sorry.
If we did know what firing pins were, it might make sense.
No, I trust Lion Standing. He leaves a lot of great notes, too, so
all right, I
tip my cap to that.
All right, well, I will tip mine as well. But still, I don't know what it means. Lion Standing, please explain. All right, should we talk a little bit about some of the people I used to try to dress like in high school, the Woodsmen?
Oh, man, you guys, you listeners have sent us so much great feedback about this. Like I said, it's too much. I had to trim some, couldn't include everybody's, but the idea of these Woodsmen got everybody's mind interested in thinking about theories. So, yeah, let's dive into them.
Okay, so Rita Pavelka says, the tragic death of poor Jack Nance comes to mind.
Jack Nance, who played Pete Martell.
The great Pete.
On the original show.
Irreplaceable Pete. According to Nance, 2 homeless bums walked up to him asking for spare change. This is per IMDb. Got some change? Got a light?
And this fight of these people coming up to Jack Nance, led to his tragic death, which Rita is talking about. Wow, now that is something.
Do you want to just give people a quick reminder of that?
All right, so this is from Wikipedia, so you can trust it as much as you can trust Wikipedia. On Wikipedia, it says, Nance died in South Pasadena, California on December 30th, 1996, under mysterious circumstances. On the 29th, so the day before, he was out with some friends. Nance had bruises under his eyes, and his friends asked him what was about it. And he said he had been in a brawl outside of Winchell's donut store on the morning of the 29th. Apparently, from this brawl, he had these bruises. He complained of a headache to his friends, and then he went home.
Never woke up.
Yeah, it says the injuries caused a subdural hematoma, resulting in his death the following morning. Oh, my God. How tough. How sad.
Well, we miss you, Jack. Mistress Kitsune Cole, at Kitsune Cole 9 on Twitter, says, it looked like the convenience store crew stole Bob from Mr. C.
Yeah, that's one of the questions I asked after Part A. Mm-hmm. Does, quote-unquote, Jeffries want Bob? Do the convenience store crew woodsmen want Bob? Is Bob going to end up, as I really fear, in Dougie Coop somehow? Ooh. What do you think that means for the remaining story if now we have Dougie Coop, the sweet innocent guy who we want to remember that his life is Dale Cooper. We have Mr. C, the evil doppelganger, and we have the evil presence of Bob out there. Ooh, think about that.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to work out, but we definitely, back to when we saw Mr. C posing in front of the mirror and Bob's mouth took over and he's talking to himself, or he's talking to Bob in the prison cell, and he said, good, you're still with me. So I think we'll know pretty quickly. Now, they did heal him. And
right,
so I'm in my mind. It looks like they healed him. I mean,
well, he sat up, so he's okay. But the idea is that could bullets affect a doppelganger, or is the idea that they had to keep him alive so the entity of Bob inside him was alive?
Okay,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I have any true idea, so I feel bad speculating.
Yeah, I don't know either. But to my mind, where it goes is, okay, so if they took him out of Mr. C, then where do they put him?
Did they bring him back to the Black Lodge?
Is he in the Lodge? Is he in Ray? I mean, I don't know. Who knows?
So write us, listeners. Follow up on this. And to be honest, some of these responses that we're going to get to may get to this in a bit.
Yeah, I think we're going to get there.
Olaf Fran from Sweden. Oh, we love the wonderful country of Sweden. Olaf wrote, I've been a Twin Peaks fan since I was 12 when the show first ran in Sweden in 1990. Since then, I've seen the show 11 or 12 times and written and commented extensively on Twin Peaks and David Lynch in Swedish media. Heck yeah.
All right.
Olaf writes, I like Season 3 a lot, acknowledging there are times when the cheesy and overdramatic tendencies in Lynch's art sometimes makes me feel uncomfortable, for a short while at least. I think I'm keeping up pretty good with what's happening so far in Season 3, but I only have one question for you guys. Any thoughts on why the Woodsmen and our very own Jerry Horn, who's now lost in the woods, have the same stylist down to the open fingertip mittens? I'm pretty sure they didn't get them at Men's Fashion at Horn's department store. Richard Tremaine does not approve. Man, I love that thought.
That's a critical point. That is a critical point.
Do you think there's any way that now bearded, fingerless, mitten-wearing Jerry Horn is in any way tied to the bearded, fingerless, mitten-wearing woodsman?
I don't think so. I think there's a greater chance that Dr. Amp is tied to the woodsman. But I definitely love Olaf pointing this out.
I love that note, yeah.
And I don't think, I'm hoping for, we've covered a lot of interesting ground in these first 8 episodes. I'm really hoping that in at least 6 of the next 10, that Richard Tremaine is featured prominently. So, Olaf, I'm with you, and maybe he will approve when Dick Tremaine will approve when he knows the whole story.
Dick Tremaine did approve of flannel a lot in the original series, so he might see the Woodsman's flannel and be like, let me do some work here.
Yeah, maybe his child with Lucy.
Wally Brando.
Maybe Wally Brando and Dick Tremaine will come back. Okay, this is from the Applesauce Project.
Another great fan.
Oh, okay, here we go. This is cool. cool. I like this a lot. My gut instinct is that we saw young Sarah Palmer be invaded by the FrogFly. I don't think that was Bob, since Bob inhabited Leland as the boy in the 40s, probably shortly after he was released on the Earth in 1945.
Now, the exact opposite thought comes from Margie Kitty Jones. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Margie Kitty Jones, who says the young girl looks just like Shelly. I know the age isn't right. Maybe her mother.
Well,
wow. Oh.
Maybe the age would be right for... Could it be right possibly for Norma? Or...
that would still be too...
Norma's mom? I'm just trying to think of Empty Wentz. Empty Wentz strikes again.
No. She's a food critic, and she's like, nothing's as good as that delicious FrogFly I ate as a kid.
As a child. That's ruined her career. Yeah, I would love for that. My instinct is that it's not connected because we're so far off from Eastern and or Western Washington State, but it could very well be. But here's why I don't think it's Sarah Palmer. The FrogFly, I'm guessing, is not a friendly creature, and I'm thinking it's more connected to our not owl in the woods. But Sarah was drugged. And so I don't think if Bob was in league with the FrogFly, I don't know if Bob, / Leland would need to drug Sarah / FrogFly while, he was terrorizing Laura. But I could be wrong.
I've seen some good takes that are following the Sarah path to be something along the lines of, well, because Sarah had these visions. Remember, Sarah in the original show had these visions of Bob. That's how she was gifted and damned. She had the vision of Jacoby pulling the necklace out from the ground. I've seen some people use that as a way to explain, and I believe the age might be right there, of how that could be Sarah.
Well, because that was 56, but she was already 12 or 13 in 56. So that could work out.
Could be,
but
yeah.
She'd definitely be in her 40s, which... that tracks well enough. But for me, it's just more about, well, what are the allegiances between FrogFly and Bob and
no, we got to get this down.
Yeah.
Now somebody else had a guess about these young boy and girl we met in the 50s horror movie.
Maxim Reality says, I'd venture a guess that the cute boy is actually Cole. Note the hair and the suit. He's like a mini Cole.
Man, now that's an idea I haven't heard anywhere else. Love that thought. We're going to talk more about some of your feedback about Gordon Cole later on in this feedback episode. From Gustav Rosengren, we got...
Not related to Albert.
We got, well, it's definitely a room above the convenience store in New Mexico. I spotted a staircase to the right of the building. I just watched the episode again for the second time. Love the feeling it brings to you, and the background music fits so perfectly.
Okay, very cool. Whiteold Jakubowski says, I have strange feeling that the fly frog mouth monster is a good thing in opposition to the woodsman.
Huh.
They seem like searching for something that got a light, maybe an actual question, like, do you have what we are looking for? And that might be some sort of inner light, the goodness that the gold-infused Laura seems to represent. It's a good point. It's interesting. And the bug thingy, ugly as it is, may eventually hatch into something of a beauty. Or I might be wrong and it will kill me.
Well, we will see. We will see. Listeners, I got another question for you that I'll put out on Twitter and Facebook. If the Woodman came up to you and said, got a light, what would happen if you said yes? Would he still crush your skull?
Right.
Would he start smoking? Would he light on fire?
Yeah.
Would he burst into flame?
Yeah, he was definitely covered in either coal dust or just dirty mortar oil. So, and actually, I was meaning to ask you, Bubba, did you think they talk about soot, but could it have been the dirty, burnt mortar oil that's been part of the Black Lodge for so long?
It could, but I want to get to this next feedback. Angela Mills, who maybe has an even better idea for what we call the soot, the dirt.
All right, go for it.
Angela writes, I think the woods people in the convenience store were normal people until the blast. If you find that convenience store, you'll find the bomb shadow outlines of where their human sides burned away and were left with these beings. Ooh, I love that idea, Angela. She goes on to write, I think the Dalek-looking bells, both with the giant, a.k.a. the question mark person, and the woman with no eyes, are part of an alarm system for when Black Lodge creatures cross over. They just weren't expecting a spillover like that. I think they also control crossing from the White Lodge back to existence, hence the handle on the woman opening the doorway back when. The beings from the experiment, and that's what the glass box monster is listed in the credits as the experiment. Angela writes, the being from the experiment may be scattered through space and time due to the rupture the bomb caused, and that's why Bob has been around as long as he had. It may also be that he was sent back to the lodge after a host, say from the Secret History of Twin Peaks book by Mark Frost, Denver Bob, died, and he just hitched a ride of the Space Spew Express instead of waiting for the lodge planetary alignment. I'm guessing he's on his way to inhabit the neighbor at Pearl Lakes now to get Leland and ultimately Laura. That's my biggest sticky wicket in this, is Laura in the bubble. I mean, ultimately, she did sort of defy Bob by wearing the Owl Cave ring. She forced Leland to be the one to kill her, not Bob, and made the dark truth be known. But does the bubble mean that it was predestined, or was it just because they knew she'd be the end of that particular line of cohabitation? Ooh.
Boom.
Brilliant thoughts, Angela. And I just, back to her original point, I love the idea that these guys are kind of those nuclear blast shadow marks on the wall. Great thought.
That's awesome. There's a lot to think about, a lot to pick apart. I wish we could spend a little bit more time on it, but we're gonna keep going. But Angela, please do share more thoughts.
Yeah.
More often. Matthias Plunkett says, I wondered whether there was an implication that Laura was some kind of creation along the lines of Dougie, a being created to draw out the darkness and expose the whereabouts of Bob. I suppose the only thing that jarred for me in this episode was the suggestion that the nuclear bomb was responsible for the rift in the fabric of space-time, as the secret history book suggested that the bridges between worlds were there long before nuclear testing. Granted that it may turn out the events can echo backwards through time. Languid Lynch, I think he knows damn well that he'll make the viewer fidgety. He's showing us in these longer scenes that we are so conditioned to expecting a certain beat and rhythm to how we process story information. It all seems very self-conscious in presentation to draw out the pauses and make us deal with them. Same with the narrative presentation. There's no doubt in my mind that Lynch is returning to making a part of the viewer's brain bypass linear logic and narrative expectations. I think he wants us to process the story on a deeper level. We are forced to chew before swallowing. I really wasn't sure about Season 3 after getting 3 or so episodes in. However, it seems to reward the viewer as soon as one lets go of what was expected. It is some of the most avant-garde and brave TV media I think I've ever seen.
Well, yes, it's definitely brave. The shockwaves it sent out across social media.
I mean, I would definitely say, yeah, I think Lynch knows exactly what he's doing, 100%.
I would too. And I just want to get back to this first point about perhaps the nuclear bomb sent creatures forward and backward in time. The secret history book definitely implies stuff way before the first nuclear blast in the 40s.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that would be one way to explain it. This kind of terrible thing that man created in the nuclear blast, rippling through time and space. I think that's a great idea. Here's another long one. I tried to edit these, but sometimes people write such kind of deep stuff. I wasn't exactly sure how to edit it, so we're going to go to Trogo Auto Egocrat 666. All right, so here we go. They wrote, I personally thought that the convenience store after the psychedelic show symbolizes recent U.S. history. These graphics, by the way, were done by BUF, who designed the beautiful effects for the very interesting film Enter the Void. He goes on to write, the woodsman and the store represents the massive increase in U.S. power in the world. The U.S. has become a repository for the strange and unusual, which boosts the economy. The U.S. is the convenience store, which is based upon the extraction of fossil fuel, a spiritual power released from Earth via fire. Fire Walk with Me is the motto of the U.S. in this sense. When Bob and Mike live above a convenience store, it means the spirits of hunger and fire. Mike and Bob are the controlling spirits of the USA as it builds itself into an empire. We can see, after the waters of the unconscious emerge from the subatomic realm, we rise into a castle symbolizing the higher mind, which lives above the earth, just as Bob and Mike live above the USA. This scene represents the existence of order, meaning, structure above the other, lower realms being turned into chaos, insanity, and death. They dispatch a pure energy or soul to the earth to rescue creatures trapped in this lower world. The dark spirits woodsmen we are seeing are the so-called men of Hod, men obsessed with their junk, pleasure, and power, who remain committed to the service of power and evil, ensuring the growth of death and slavery in the empire. The operation of blind, mechanical, causal processes, such as the function of modern economic, inevitably becomes. Our economy, built on a worship of fire and power, is a ghostly gas station in an abyss where the spirits of the dead serve their dark purpose. The existence of a higher world capable of insight, compassion, and higher purpose is generally hidden from the creatures on Earth now being dominated by Bob and the men of Hod. Holy smokes.
Wow.
We are through the rabbit hole. I don't even know what to say to that. That is some deep thought processing right there. Real fun to read, and hopefully it gets listeners thinking as well about possible symbolism happening in our explosions.
Yeah. No. Well, no, there's definitely a lot to unpack. And first off, happy 4th of July. Second of all, no, I think this is the kind of thing that, we can definitely, it's so great to get something like this, just like it was, from Angela as well. And so I wish we could go through all of it. I think a lot of that symbolism is certainly, part of the outlook, and just looking at, what's on Cole's walls in his office and things like that. So there's definitely a really good point there. Some really interesting things. Very, very cool. Okay, so now we're going to talk about horse is the white of the eye, which is not my favorite omelet at Norm's. No, this is part of what the Woodsman was after he was
part of his mantra, his chant. What would you call it?
I always call it just freestyle rap. He's my favorite
freestyle.
MC. Yeah. I think the Woodsman was definitely West Coast, not East Coast rap.
I don't know. Would you call Abe Lincoln Center Coast? Because it was an Abe Lincoln impersonator.
Yeah.
The girl found the penny just before then. Albert and Gordon want to see
That's such a good point.
They want to see Mount Rushmore, which has Lincoln's face in it, Faces of Stone. So this is more like Illinois, Kentucky style rap from the Woodsman.
All right, I'll take that. Let's see what Trev Moffat has to say. Okay. The horse is the white of the eye could be referring to the constellation of Sagittarius, which lies at the galactic center. The darkness within could be the zone of avoidance also lying at the center of the Milky Way, which recently was proven to contain a supermassive black hole. Maybe the supermassive black hole is the home to the White and Black Lodge.
Now that I could definitely believe. They come from somewhere in a black hole, rising from the air, pure air. Love it.
That's very cool.
Here's another thought on the freestyle rap from a user on YouTube who goes by, Why Does She Love Him? They wrote, I was thinking before that the, quote, horse is the white of the eyes and the dark within was the white horse. But now, what if it references the doppelgangers?
Okay.
When the doppelgangers are in the Black Lodge, remember, he had frosted over the white eyes.
Mm-hmm. All the doppelgangers
plus the dark within. Interesting thought process there. I thought it was a great visual way for us to know which were doppelgangers, is they didn't have any darkness in their eyes. They were all the white of the eyes. And when you talk about doppelgangers, one thing that still to this day blows me away is if the man from another place is one of these, what we would normally call lodge spirits, even the spirits themselves have doppelgangers, it feels like, which is an odd thing to think about. And, of course, now the evolution of the arm, if he had eyes that could go all white, I don't know if we'd see him.
Right. We better see the evolution. We better see the arm and the evolution of the arm again, or I'm going to be really, really disappointed. All right. So at a certain point, the experiment now, which... See, this is just a quick side note. It's a little frustrating for me that we're learning a lot about what these people, such as Richard Horne, are by the credits. It's a small nit I got to pick there. So the experiment brings to mind, well, is the experiment the Manhattan Project itself? Is the experiment the actual nuclear bomb?
Is the experiment the glass box experiment in New York City?
Well, it's referring to the monster in the glass box.
Yeah, sure.
So that's the thing. So okay,
it could be an experiment, though. Sure.
Right, but who is conducting the experiment is the big question. So this is we're going to file this under easy listening and birthing Bob Blob. Dan Larkin writes, fear, pain, and sorrow. Arguably the greatest terror inflicted upon man, the atomic bomb. So much so that it birthed an entity to feed on these forces. I don't know. That's what I got anyway. Okay.
I could take that, Dan. And I think, to be honest, that's a response and belief that I think a lot of people got after watching Part 8. Here's one from another great fan, Thomas Clapper.
Tommy C.
He wrote, "This is hard for me to accept. I've always had it in my mind that Bob was hundreds of thousands of years old. I know the Owl Cave ring existed in the time of Lewis and Clark expedition, according to A Secret History of Twin Peaks.
Yes.
Perhaps the nuclear test just created a perfect storm for a comeback of the being. Perhaps Bob was defeated in the past, and it is a never-ending battle. I just find it odd that this was the creation of Bob, but the Owl Cave and the ring seem prehistoric." Great point, Thomas. We were talking about that a second ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was pitched earlier by that listener that maybe this atomic bomb creates ripples in time and space, and so it could move backwards and forwards in time. Is this the future? Is it the past? But I'm with you, Thomas. I always thought Bob, his essence had been around for quite a long time. And you read The Secret History of Twin Peaks, I completely agree. That's what I took.
Right. No, I'm with you there, and this for me is something that, as much as I really did enjoy, and everyone listening will remember that I only had 1 rating for episode 8.
Yeah, but it was 7, which was weird because you really loved the episode. And how did you come up with the number 7?
I gave it an 8. No, I thought I bumped it up.
Oh, maybe at the end. Yeah. What did you do?
Yeah, after talking about it, I bumped it up. Well, I stuck with it. The point is...
so you did give it 2 ratings.
No, I gave it 1, and then I changed it permanently.
Okay, all right.
It's permanently changed, Bubba. No, okay. So one of the things that I'm a little nervous about the atomic bomb starting this, and even if it's combining past and the present, was, I think, one, it takes away a lot of the magic, not magic as in, hocus pocus, but just the wonderful nature of that the story's about a place known as Twin Peaks. And just like... we haven't seen him yet, but Sheriff Truman says in season 1 where, there's a darkness in these woods and strange things happen here, and people have been, there's good and there's also evil. But it's coming from a specific place. When we're talking about the nuclear bomb and time and space and different dimensions, for me, if there's multiple possibilities for everything that's going on, then it takes away some of the stakes. It takes away some of the jeopardies because, one coop dies. Well, there's an infinite amount of other coops and other dimensions. So I'm with Thomas. And
well, the one thing I would say, Mork, I didn't agree necessarily with everything you said, but the one thing that I think about is that I never needed this. I never asked, tell me how evil was created. And I see Bob as a force of evil, whatever. And so I never needed it.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing, though, that evil was created in 1945.
Right. There were some people online pitching that the nuclear bomb, in a way, didn't birth Bob so much as release him. Like, he always existed, but the nuclear bomb kind of released his essence. A bit like, if anybody saw Superman 2, where those kryptonite villains, like
glass prisons,
General Zod, they were trapped, but a blast released them. So in my own mind, hopefully we'll never get the answers, because I was fine without this bit of backstory for my thinking about Bob.
Right. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. Matt LeBlanc says, since it appears to be interested in establishing more information about Bob, that once we are done going through time, we will eventually come back to find Doppelkoop died and Bob is now in full control?
Ooh, so this is the flip side of Mr. C got Bob taken out of him. Mr. C did really die, and now it's nothing but Bob in this shell of Doppelkoop of Mr. C. So that's a fun idea, Matt.
That's a really good call. That is a really good point. Okay, speaking of the man from another place.
The evolution of the arm.
Okay, we're going back to our buddy Necropolitan Comic, at Necropolitan CMC. If the man from another place is from where there's always music in the air, and the Hill House in the Purple World is that place, then is man from another place a good guy, even with the Garmonbozia hunger?
All right, so let's break down what they're asking right now, and that is, way back when we first meet the man from another place, he mentions, where we're from, there's always music in the air. And so then that, I want to call it castle on the island there in the Purple World above the Purple Sea, that place seems to have music in the air all the time. There's that gramophone there. The Señorita and the question mark giant, they seem to be forces of good that somehow birthed a Laura ball.
Right.
And so if the man from another place is there, you would assume he would be good. But I've never taken the man from another place to be a force of good. I actually got into a back and forth on Twitter with our good buddy Joel Bacco, who was kind of arguing the opposite side. But I kind of thought the man from another place in the original series, he was a force that kind of didn't care one way or another about you. In Fire Walk with Me, you see him in the room above a convenience store with Bob. You see him walking through the Red Room with Bob. So I never took him to be kind of a force for good at all. That was my thought then. I have to admit, the evolution of the arm, this talking electric tree sponsored by T-Mobile, he does seem to be helping Cooper, so maybe he is good. I have no strong read on this one way or another.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about, and we'll see. It's really hard to say.
Do you want to? How about this?
Yeah,
you want to have a call at the end of this. Will you think the evolution of the arm acted to help Agent Cooper, or will you think in the end, all is said and done, the evolution of the arm hurt Agent Cooper more? What do you think?
Well, I mean, this is going to be based purely on having...
On subjective. Yeah, you. What do you think?
Well, based on seeing the doppelganger of the evolution of the arm throw Coop into, nothingness...
Well, but through that nothingness, he somehow found a way to get out. So, I mean, boy, this is tough.
That's a great call. That's a great call. I would say that I think the evolution of the arm is on our side.
Our side, meaning Agent Cooper's side. Just want to confirm.
Let's move on.
You're so tricky there.
No. I think yeah. I'd say positive. Yes, force for good. Okay, so this is something that we've been talking a lot about on Twitter.
Yeah.
Ben J. Dyson, otherwise known as Ben Dyson. In terms of what does Gordon know, he tweets. Ben J. Dyson does, not Gordon Cole. Tweets: Cole knew about the Trinity link. What does he know regarding metamorphosis?
So, on Gordon's wall, let's just refresh it. We've seen an ear of corn.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen a
mushroom
cloud that could have been from Trinity.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw a picture of Kafka,
right,
author of his most famous work, Metamorphosis.
Yeah.
Boy, this is tricky. So one of the things that I have thrown out there, and I threw this out there on Twitter, is that if you go back to part 2, Mr. C gets on the phone, and he thinks he's talking to Jeffries, but he isn't sure, and he even questions if it really is Jeffries. And whoever that voice is talking to him on the phone, it doesn't have Jeffries' famed Southern accent of, "Gosh, man, baby, no, I found something."
Right.
And so I threw out an idea is, what if that voice on the phone, which Cooper and Ray think they're talking to Jeffries, they're actually talking to a voice-modulated Gordon Cole. And Gordon Cole is doing this because he wants to find out what the heck's going on. Not that Gordon Cole is evil, but that he's doing a sting to catch Mr. C and find out more about these forces. According to the Secret History of Twin Peaks, Gordon Cole knew a lot more than he let on, and it even implies that Gordon Cole had some sort of working relationship with Major Briggs.
Right.
So I wouldn't think Gordon Cole would ever be evil, but that's one of my first thought processes is if Gordon knew more, could he know enough to where he could pretend to be Agent Jeffries to find out more about this netherworld? Thought I'm throwing out there.
Yeah, we've talked about how I do believe that Cole will end up being somewhat of an adversary, but I don't think he is. I don't think he is evil. But one thing, and just to go back to Secret History real quick, because of he knows so much more than he lets on, and also what we know about him. In terms of. Well, he knows more than what he lets on, and also he's done more than what it seems like he's ever done based on his appearances in the show. And he's sending this information to Agent TP, to Tammy. And she's very young, and I'm sure she's a fantastic agent, but he could be setting her up for something. We don't know. I don't know. Maybe he's using her as bait and to actually catch Bubba, but we'll see.
To catch who?
Okay, original series callbacks.
Yeah, this is from Gustav again, Rosengren. They write, one thing I can't get out of my mind. Twin Peaks Season 2, Episode 22, the very last one of the original series. Cooper sits with the man from another place in the Red Room. They're in what we believe is the Black Lodge. The little man says, "When you see me again, it won't be me." And then, according to Gustav, he steps on an insect on the floor. An insect. What do you guys make of that? Now, I don't remember him actually stepping on an insect. I know his legs kind of make it look like he is stepping on something, but I never actually noticed that. And so...
Well, he had short legs.
Yes, and therefore... or was it he had short legs, period?
Yes.
Thank you for
That's a
that
short
great
declarative
insight.
sentence.
It was. Mark that in your calendars, everybody. I tended to think that was just part of him acting the scene backwards, and that's why his foot did that. But somebody go check. In that final episode, is he stepping on a bug?
Yeah.
Is he stepping on a mini FrogFly?
We'll find out. We will find out. Okay, so let's get to
the least important
cable TV.
Yeah, let's talk about the least important question we put out there for you guys, and that's about Showtime. Here in the United States, Showtime is a service just like HBO, which you have to pay extra money for. So you could be paying to receive cable or a satellite signal, but then you pay a little extra money to get these channels. Showtime, they've got my money. I believe I'm paying something like between $12 and $15 a month. I can't really make
12 and 15.
I think so. How much do you pay? I don't know. Isn't that
$75
a month? You don't pay $75 a month.
I'm doing the Showtime app, and it's I think it's $10.99 or something like that.
All right, so let's just round it and say it was 10. So May, June, July, August. I guess you want to see the last episode, September. So that would be 5 months. They're going to get $50. They did pretty well, you would assume, from all of us. So I wanted to know from you guys, hey, if you subscribe to Showtime, are you going to keep it, which I actually think would probably help a Twin Peaks Season 4, or are you going to cut it, which also might help Season 4? Keeping Showtime, Showtime would think, oh, look at all these new users we got who joined on for Twin Peaks, and hey, they stuck around, they like Showtime, they subscribed for a whole year, this is perfect, we got to give them more Twin Peaks so they stay involved. If you cancel it right after Twin Peaks end, they may realize, oh boy, all those new subscribers we got just left us because they want Twin Peaks. Maybe we renew it. I can't tell. What do you think would be better for a Season 4? If it's even possible there could be a Season 4. What do you think's better?
I was always under the impression that it was not possible, but I mean, I love the idea of it. I mean, we'll see. I mean, if it is possible, then obviously, the more subscribers is going to be a big part of that because then obviously they can afford to make it. But... yeah, so Tony Smith writes, to answer your question, I signed up for Showtime because of Twin Peaks and will cancel after its run.
Man, Tony, love that short declarative sentence.
It's pretty nice.
Showtime might not like it, but I like it. Etienne Bennett writes, I only got Showtime to watch Twin Peaks The Return. The second the series is over, I'll be canceling Showtime because it's a useless expense for me. She writes, I prefer my Netflix, Hulu, Vudu, YouTube, etc. She loves our podcast and hoping that Part 9 won't hurt her brain as much. Okay, that's 2 in a row who said they're going to cancel it as soon as Twin Peaks is over. Uh-oh, Showtime. Right. This could be trouble.
Well, we're going to turn it around. Greg Fifield writes, I literally only watched Twin Peaks on Showtime. They did have a nice DJ AM biography, but that's all. I love tonight's episode, but I was just excited to hear someone try to explain this episode on a podcast. You guys did an amazing job, truly, trying to make sense of the unknowable. Well, it's very kind.
Oh, that sounds like Greg may also cancel Showtime. He loves the DJ AM bio, but if he's only watching Twin Peaks on Showtime, that could be 3 in a row who could be canceling Showtime.
Yeah.
Here we go. Thomas Clapper, another great Twin Peaks fan. Thomas writes, the only other thing I watch on Showtime is Billions. Caught Season 1 on a free preview a year ago and figured since I will be watching Twin Peaks, I will watch Season 2. I will probably be done with Showtime after Peaks, though. Oh, no. As for the episode, he's still... Oh, no. So this is yet another person. Even though I heard
I hope no one from Showtime is listening to this, in case there is going to be a Season 4.
Oh, my goodness. I have not seen Billions. I heard Season 2 of Billions was really, really good. Like, it got even better. So, oh boy, this is bad news for Showtime PR. Here's Phil Adams, who wrote, I'm also one of those people that subscribe to Showtime just for Twin Peaks. I do hope there's another season. Otherwise, I won't keep subscribing. I already have Netflix for movies. Man, oh boy, this is... Yeah, all Showtime, right. Don't listen to this. This
Hang
is sad.
On. The tide is turning.
All right.
The tide is turning. Dawn Summers writes, Homeland is fantastic. They have great documentaries. I had Showtime before and love it. Read a review that said their subscriptions went up so much it paid for series already.
All right, okay. Dawn is a great Twin Peaks fan. Dawn is Showtime's
Keep writing those checks, Dawn.
Dawn is Showtime's loves Dawn. We love Dawn. Back to our good buddy Matt LeBlanc, and I love this one. Matt says, in Canada, I have to watch this on Crave TV, which I will cancel the second the show is over. Oh no.
Oh, man. JVL writes, regarding Showtime, they got to keep Firewalk up and keep Twin Peaks all seasons downloadable to keep their subscribers. Plus, carry some similar stuff like Jodorowsky or Winding Refn, etc., etc. Also, maybe invite Matthew Barney to do something. I did watch all the Homeland as a result of this, but kind of don't care about most TV shows.
Man, oh boy. Wait, so everybody, Dawn is the one. We're going to keep holding out to Dawn. Matthew Power. Uh-oh. I'm totally canceling Showtime subscription after Twin Peaks. LOL. I'm not sure how I feel about a possible season 4. Of course, I want more Lynch on a weekly basis, but maybe it would start being less amazing if it was hurried. I hope by episode 18 of this season, I will feel a sense of completion about this crazy trip. LOL. Matthew, great thoughts, but except for your Showtime subscription, everybody's canceling. Oh, no.
All right, hang on. Jamie Michelle.
All right.
I am not a new subscriber to Showtime. I've had it for a long time, but since you guys asked about other shows on Showtime worth watching, I thought I'd post. Shameless, William H. Macy is totally awesome, and that show never ceases to shock me to the point of my jaw hitting the floor. I loved House of Lies, but they took that one off now, I guess. Homeland is a really good show, and who doesn't love Ray Donovan?
All right, Jamie, Michelle, and Dawn, you guys are our Showtime lighthouse. You're going to lead us all to some great programming. Final one I took a note on is from P Simple Gamer, who wrote, I'm probably only keeping my Showtime subscription if there's going to be yet another season of Twin Peaks The Return. Okay. Ooh.
Twin Peaks The Return returns.
Well, what do you know? That is tough. Man, that is tough.
One thing I want to say is I was not a Showtime subscriber before they made season 3, and I don't think I'll hang on afterwards. But I do want to say how much I appreciate them, because I have no doubt that if this show wasn't on Showtime for this season, we wouldn't have seen an episode like episode 8, and I'm glad for it.
There were rumors that Lynch and Frost went to several networks to pitch Twin Peaks The Return. There's also kind of some reports, though, that they went to Showtime first and Showtime said yes. Mm-hmm. So either way, even as somebody who I just loved Part 7, I loved Part 8 and yet also had trouble with Part 8, I think Showtime's earned this money they're getting from us. I don't feel bad at all giving them my cash.
Absolutely, but it's also, I mean, if you're trying to set yourself apart in terms of, I mean, we are really in it's just an embarrassment of riches in terms of how great TV has become these last 10 years. And if you're trying to set yourself apart, I'm not a huge fan of Ray Donovan. I think that it tries to be like other shows we've seen a lot of. It's a little bit of Sopranos, it's a little bit of Breaking Bad, it's a little bit of, those
are good shows. If you're gonna take a little bit of something, those are two pretty good shows.
Those are amazing shows. I don't think Ray Donovan lives up to those shows. But if you're trying to stand out in what is a very crowded, marketplace, TV Guide these days would be about 4 inches long every month. Why not use David Lynch? Why not hire some people? David Lynch and Mark Frost are going to do something that, I mean, love or hate episode 8. No one else has done anything like it.
Amen.
Ever. So
Amen.
That's not a bad way for Showtime to differentiate themselves in this crazy media landscape.
Have you been following the new Showtime show, which premiered, was it just 1 week, 2 weeks after Twin Peaks, the show I'm Dying Up Here? I think it was 2 weeks after Twin Peaks premiered here in the United States. Showtime rolled out yet another series entitled I'm Dying Up Here. Have you been watching that?
I have not. I don't find dramatic shows about comedy to be fun to watch. Comedians can be dark and all that, but I like them to be somewhat enjoyable, and it just...
Well, wait a minute. If you haven't watched it...
Oh, I watched like 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gave it a shot. I'll be honest, I gave it a shot. hasn't really hooked me yet. Bad news for it. The AV Club, which is one of these websites that does weekly reviews of episodes, they've just bailed on I'm Dying Up Here. They're canceled their coverage because they feel like the show isn't living up to its possible promise. It said it had a lot of possibilities, but it hadn't gotten there.
They're like the Steve Owen of websites.
Possibly. Speaking of websites, one final note. Go check out 25 Years Later, the great fan site. You can find out all about them 25 years later on Twitter. They just put out so many wonderful articles. It's incredible. And they're just fans, just like we're fans, just like you're fans. Check out their stuff. Great work. Guys, I couldn't include everybody's feedback. We could have gone yet another hour with all the wonderful stuff you're leaving on our Facebook page, facebook.com/double P podcast. That's the word double, the single letter P, the word podcast, plural, facebook.com/double P podcast. Please keep giving us those iTunes reviews. Keep liking our Facebook page. That's the way how we can stay in contact. You guys are the best Twin Peaks fans in the world. You are really the only reason why we're doing this podcast. Next week for part 9, we're going to try some technologically different things, meaning Mork will not be sitting across from me like he is now. He's going to be on the other side of the United States as he's enjoying part of these July summer vacations. Hopefully, technically, it will work. Either way, we want you to go to our Facebook page and give us your thoughts on Part 9 as soon as it ends so we can hopefully include it in our Part 9 coverage. For everyone here on Twin Peaks The Gifted
And the Damned,
my name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter. You can tweet me your Part 9 thoughts to @FitandTrim. That's FITTENTRIM @FitandTrim on Twitter.
And just real quick, Bubba is going to give out 3 ratings for episode 9, something to look forward to.
Yeah, get your feedback ready.
This is Mork. You can find me at Extraordinary on Twitter. That's extraordinary with a W in front of the final R. Thank you so much, and got a light.